Hi there. Despite the fact that producers said in interviews this past week that Cregan Stark won't appear in the rest of House of the Dragon Season 2, new evidence has come up suggesting he might, in a change from the books. And this isn't, some guy no one else has ever heard of told me through Twitter DMs, and that no one else has heard a leak about. I mean, this is solid evidence that has been circulating publicly on Twitter and in a couple of other places. But to start with, in the book, Jace's journey north has enough material in it for a multi-episode subplot. That Cregan has his own backstory, that the prequel Starks actually are tied in with the rest of the narrative. If you want to bring up, we actually were one of the few houses that voted for the Velaryons at the Great Council. There's a couple of things you could get from that, or other characters that they cut out. And I made a whole separate video right before this on all the stuff they cut, and that we kind of hoped they just pushed it back to later in the season, but we didn't know how they could, that it's this one trip to the north. And now that Jace has returned, how would you work that in? It's harder to space out throughout the season. Because if they don't get to stuff in the King's Landing storyline, you think, they just must have moved it later, but that's pretty difficult. Even with dragons flying back and forth, it takes like a week to get to Winterfell or something, which I'm fine, like 2 weeks can pass within a single episode. What is this new evidence? Well, unquestionably, there was this shot in the new trailer. In the Weeks Ahead trailer, so it's not next episode, episode 2, this is at some point in season 2, there are very clear shots of the twins. This is clearly showing the twins, the castle of House Frey, that has a bridge over the Trident. And moreover, you see Jace there negotiating with them. Now, it's an overhead shot, but then others have already pointed out, despite the angle of that shot, in the wide shot of the whole bridge, you can see Jace's dragon Vermax there. So this is unquestionable. This is a change from the books. He never went to treat with the Freys in the books, or the other River Lords. It's not a change that we would see the twins at all. That, in and of itself, didn't surprise us. Remember that Cregan said he couldn't send all of his Stark armies, but he could at least send a few thousand older but battle-hardened veterans. These 2,000 advanced Stark soldiers are nicknamed the Winter Wolves. And I already pointed out, there's this behind-the-scenes costume rack in the making-of video, where you can clearly see a label that says Stark Winter Wolves. So they're called the Winter Wolves in the TV show as well. And because the Twins is a strategic crossing over the Trident River that any army passing in and out of the north would need to go miles out of the way on back roads, because the King's Road goes directly through the Twins. You have to go on back roads, take weeks to get anywhere. It's the same reason that Robb Stark had to negotiate a passage through the Twins in Game of Thrones Season 1. The Winter Wolves, who are a much smaller army, they're just a tiny contingent of Northmen, hand-picked veterans, they have to negotiate their way south. And the Freys side with Rhaenyra. I mean, Lord Frey was one of her many suitors in her youth, and he just openly sides with her. But we were expecting a scene of the Winter Wolves arriving at the Twins, and because Fire and Blood is an outline, this is one of those few points where there's actual dialogue, that it says, their commander, Roderick Dustin, the grizzled old commander of the Winter Wolves, showed up at the Twins and said, "We have come here to die for the Dragon Queen." So we were expecting there's going to be a scene of the Winter Wolves coming south. Putting 2 and 2 together, we're going to have Jace visiting the Twins while the Winter Wolves are apparently there. Which makes complete sense. If you're going to send Jace to the Twins, do it to, I negotiated the Winter Wolves coming south. Now we get to the less concrete evidence. That is solid. That is confirmed. That is a change from the books. They are spacing out some of Jace's story like that. Question is how much. The other thing, which is not some guy told me, but it has been circulating over Twitter a lot by major channels. Allegedly 2 storyboard images leaked. I mean, I've seen the images, it's just they look authentic. And if they're forgeries, they're really good forgeries. That there's would appear to be storyboards that This isn't even the first time this has happened, that sometimes the storyboard artists will put a storyboard up on Instagram for like an hour, then take it down, knowing fans will copy and recirculate it. But so they can't trace it back to them, they don't get in trouble, so we try not to say who did what. But I didn't see who originally posted it, but it's been making the rounds, these two storyboard pages. The first one clearly shows the Winter Wolves arriving at the Twins. No crisis there. But it also is labeled that Cregan Stark is there with them. This is also not too surprising, because that has been a theory since before Season 1 of Cregan stays in the north for a while, because it takes him a long time to raise his... When they realize I need to raise my full army, well, it's autumn, they have to bring in the harvest. That late in the war, the main Stark army comes down, and Cregan with them. He doesn't come with the advanced force, the Winter Wolves, and, I mean, they're sort of a suicide squad, so that might make some problems. That the whole point of the Winter Wolves is they're old men unafraid to die who volunteer to go on suicide missions, like, I will lead the first assault, I will be in the first wave, in the van, they take heavy losses, but do disproportionate damage. So if Cregan is with them, you'd have to explain how, he doesn't get killed off through attrition. But they can work around it. So we're not really sure. Will he just... This is another branching option. Will Cregan just come to the Twins to negotiate the passage of the Winter Wolves, then return to Winterfell? That could be it. Could just be that. Or they could make an even bigger change by having him come with the Winter Wolves. I'd be a little more hesitant about that, but we'll see what they do. But okay, at the very least, it's not too contrived that he comes to the very south of the north, to the Neck. The Twins borders the swamps of the Neck with House Reed. Comes there to negotiate the passage of his men into the Riverlands, then might return to Winterfell, fine. Either scenario means we have more Cregan and Jace in the same physical location, and because he's in Jace's storyline, they said that the Targaryens are the POVs. Yeah, we might have more scenes of them just talking and giving more of Cregan's backstory, that he's not just a Ned Stark clone, he has his own backstory, that my uncle usurped me, I had to overthrow him, my wife just died in childbirth, and I'm a widower with an infant son. Things rounding him out as his own character. They could just have shifted around. And that's fine, but this led to some branching speculation for me, and I'm pausing for emphasis. Maybe Jace will not only meet Cregan at the Twins, which isn't too big of a stretch. Maybe Jace will meet Cregan's bastard half-sister Sara Snow at the Twins, because the TV show will change it to have her accompany the Winter Wolves to the south. And in this way, they will have not cut out the prequel Stark stuff, but found a way to stretch it across seasons 2 and 3. Which I'm fine with, as long as it's in there in some capacity. If for pacing reasons you want it, this isn't a bad way to move it around. We'll have them negotiate as they're going south to the Twins. I'm fine with that. Going over this in my mind, though, well, why would Sara Snow come south? She isn't a warrior. She isn't described as one, at least. She has a very vague description. It hit me. Maybe they're going to merge Sara Snow with Black Aly Blackwood from the book, who is a warrior, she's an archer, and marches with the Blackwoods' main army. And this lines up with another gap in our knowledge, that if you remember a few weeks before Season 2, I made this big summary video of this is every casting leak or pretty clear casting speculation, but we don't know who's playing Nettles or Daeron. We don't think Daeron's in Season 2. Jess Redford, who's probably in Season 2, or the Blackwoods or Sara Snow. Maybe because the Black Aly and Sara have emerged, they're one and the same. And if you remember, there is speculation on Sara Snow, though, that we narrowed it down to 2 candidates, but the strongest to me is Erica Ford. Because we do know she has joined the cast, but not as what character, and she really looks like she could be a relative of Maisie Williams. So keep an eye on Erica Ford. Others have said maybe, they've heard rumors, maybe she's just a background minor Hightower or something, or a servant girl. All possible. but just based on her appearance, and we don't know who she is, I suspect that she is Sara Snow. And that they've sort of combined those two characters. Now, some will point out, but Cregan marries Aly Blackwood eventually. Yes, but minor spoilers. Years later, Aly dies in childbirth, and because she only had daughters, Cregan remarries a third time. And all the later Stark generations actually descend from his third wife through the sons that he had with her, because Aly didn't give him any sons. So yeah, you could... Obviously, we'd be losing the Cregan-Aly Blackwood romance in order to make screen time for... I think they're going to build up the Jace and Baela romance, and then later on introduce Sara Snow as a love triangle, because they love that. And, if the writing is good, love triangles work. It's a matter of the quality of the writing, but they're going to throw a wrench into that. And maybe not even a wrench into that. Maybe it'll be like Lord of the Rings. Aragorn loves Arwen. Éowyn shows up, is impressed with Aragorn, but he never returns her affection. So maybe Jace will be like Aragorn, where it's just, look, I understand, but I'm not into you like this, or I can't. I have a thing, and I do love Baela. However they play with that. There's multiple things they could do. But, yeah, I'm starting to think that they are clearly making some changes. This isn't just some guy told me. The trailer shows Jace at the Twins, where we know the Stark army is going. And on the topic of maybe there'll be more Cregan scenes there, even if he returns to Winterfell, maybe this is how they're working Sara Snow in, as sort of this combination, because the Winter Wolves join the Blackwood army as part... They make one big army at Harrenhal, which is the Black's army in the Riverlands, of the Riverlords plus the Winter Wolves and a couple Arryns. This works in my mind. I can see the pieces falling together. Oh, I did say there were 2 storyboards. The other one was unrelated. And while we can't confirm these things are real, and sometimes they throw out fake stuff on purpose to fool us, or they mislabel things, like we don't know, is that really going to be Cregan, or did they know it was Sara Snow as his representative, and they mislabeled it to throw off fans or something? The other storyboard clearly shows Rhaena finding a dragon in the Vale. I already believed the leaks that Rhaena finds a dragon. So let me make this clear. The fact that I'm seeing this storyboard, even if it's real, it doesn't contain any new information. Because I believed the source that said I saw description that Rhaena finds a dragon in the Vale. Nothing in this is labeled sheep stealer. If you're going to say, well, her dragon in the book is named Morning, and the word morning is here, it's time of day morning is how all of these storyboards are labeled. But that is coming, and we're not really sure how they're doing it. This doesn't answer any questions regarding that. Just, yes, the initial rumor was true, but it was so vaguely worded we're not sure what they're doing. I have come to believe that actress Thuso Mbedu is actually going to appear as Nettles for one scene at the end of Season 2. And maybe they were hedging their bets, and this is an idea they abandoned of merging the characters before they got more seasons. I have all separate videos on that, but there's rumors Thuso Mbedu was actually seen at least in studios, which give me hope. But this is all separate. The point of this video is about the Sara Snow and Stark armies being at the Twins when Jace is there. But what other information can we glean from these? How are they labeled? I'm not 100% on the labeling scheme they're using, that one is labeled 852 and the other one 853. Are these timestamps in an episode, or more probably, are both of these from Episode 8, the Season 2 finale? Well, in Rhaena's case, that would actually fit pretty well with what we've heard, that a separate leak where we saw a photo of a filming schedule, I've seen this with my own eyes in private, it's shared through private Discord, that there's this scene of Rhaena and her entourage leaving the Eyrie. Originally I thought they were coming to the Eyrie. They're leaving the Eyrie for like the Bloody Gate or something. And then it says, and Rhaena splits off from the rest of them. Well, it would make sense that if Rhaena finds a dragon, it's in either Episode 7 or Episode 8. So that lends credence to the idea that, yes, these markings on here, this numbering scheme represents that this is Episode 8. So she'd, leave in Episode 7, wander off, and the description was, follows tracks a dragon by its droppings to find its lair, and finds this dragon eating sheep. And they all eat sheep. You saw in episode 1 that they're having a sheep tax. It's their favorite food. What do dragons eat? They'll eat any meat, so long as it's cooked, but they kind of have a taste for mutton. It's their favorite. It's a treat. It's a joke. So, yeah, that fits that this probably does represent episode 8, and setting aside the Rhaena sheep stealer issues, if, therefore, these 2 storyboards are from episode 8, that means the Winter Wolves are only coming to the Twins by the season finale? And that Jace is coming to negotiate their passage, and then he'll meet Cregan, possibly Sara Snow there? That would mean they're going at a very slow pace of adaptation. Then again, this does match other things we've heard. That from casting information, we're pretty sure that the Lannister army will begin its invasion of the Riverlands from the west, that they're coming from the north, he's coming from the west, with the Battle of Red Fork in the season finale. And I can see how those will mirror each other, that just as they're coming from the western edge, because the Riverlands is big, it'll take them time to get all the way to the middle, but just as in the last episode, we see the setup that the main Lannister army is coming from the western edge, you see the Stark army with the other Riverlords coming down from the Twins to rally with the other groups. Other things say that Daemon is surveying the army at Harrenhal in episode 7. Maybe they wait for the Stark and Frey contingents coming from the northern Riverlands. But they're setting up they're promising the audience season 3 is going to have a big battle for Harrenhal, which, not at Harrenhal, but near, because of the strategic moves. There's a big battle in the middle of the Riverlands called the Fish Feed. It's the battle by the lakeshore at God's Eye, and it's like their Antietam. It is officially the biggest land battle of the war, and they're setting that up. So I can see how that, yeah, there are reasons you would be starting to, rather than the Winter Wolves coming in episode 3 or something, you might want to have them held for the finale and go, this is a promise for something that's going to happen next season. So what's the point of this video is just, were these storyboards, I think they're real, and if nothing else, you can't argue with that trailer shot that Jace and Vermax are going to the Twins, which is 2 and 2 together. Obviously, he'll probably be there when the Stark army is there. And therefore, we might not have lost Cregan and Sara Snow. We'll have to see how they play this, but after almost 2 years of waiting, we only have, 6 more weeks to go or something until episode 8? So we won't have to wait long. So I'm just urging everyone, have a wait-and-see attitude, because clearly they're going somewhere with this.